Welcome back to Racing Pulse. It is great to have a good friend of the station, Dwayne Dunn, in the studio. There's not a day that goes by on the SMS machine where racing fans and listeners want to know where Dwayne Dunn is, because it's been quite some time since we've seen Dwayne Dunn in the saddle. We know all the issue he had with the neck injury. Made a comeback at the start of the year, rode in the Group 1 Blue Diamond, a race he owned, but since then he's been off the scene. And Dwayne, it's good to see you at the moment. A lot of people want to know what's going on. How are you?
Yeah, just ticking over, Michael. It's been a long journey. The comeback was really good. I was really impressed the way I bounced back off of that, but everything's just gone pear-shaped and, gone backwards, really.
It's quite scary what you've been telling me off air about what has occurred. And initially, the neck and the vertebrae were the big issues, and that's healed. But there's something that's almost even more scary that's now come to light from that. Can you explain what it is? Yeah,
well, it's sort of because I was so close to being a quadriplegic, and the neck fracture was quite in an awkward spot. They were more worried about that, and they probably missed the actual major diagnosis was the head knock and the brain injury. And the first 4 weeks after the accident, I was fine. I could have got back on horse straight away, I reckon, and carried on. But it just the more that I'm doing, the worse it's got. And now I've got to a stage where if I start to get my heart rate up to sort of just a light jog or running, I get like vertigo and start to feel like I want to be sick and vomit. So everything else I can do, like I'm playing golf, I'm not playing it very well, but walking's fine. It's a minute, as I say, just get my heart rate up.
And this is all stemmed from brain trauma?
Yeah, the last specialist I've seen, they put you through a series of tests and doing things and what triggers it, why is it happening, because it was originally I was just getting these headaches all the time, and for no apparent reason. You know, Gary Zimmerman looks after us, and he was of the opinion that there's no reason why this neck injury should be causing what it was, and he kept saying, well, you haven't been knocked out, but I think the force to the top of my head was so severe to break the vertebrae six vertebrae away has some sort of force, and if it had caught me on the chin like that, would have knocked me out for sure. So I did have a bad concussion when I was in Hong Kong back in 2000, which is a long time ago now, and I was probably out for 5 or 10 minutes that time. But this time, although I might have been a split second, but I wasn't really concussed. But the tests that have been run at the moment of just showing brain trauma injury, and hopefully we've got to try and rewire the brain and get back to where we're at.
So how does that affect you in day-to-day life? What's the memory like?
Yeah, no good at all. Probably there has been a good part of that, and I've probably forgotten a lot of my bad rides. I've put a few of them in the bin, and but on the flip side, I've forgotten the good ones as well. So I'll have to document everything now just to make sure I'm at the right place, right time. You know, you asked me a question earlier about someone, and I couldn't for the life of me remember who they were until I Googled them, and that's enough to trigger the the memory.
How frustrating is that for you? Because you're renowned as a very intelligent horseman, but outside of racing as well, a lot of interests that you've got. So for not being able to remember simple things, how tough has that been?
You probably... it's probably maybe a little bit like dementia, is try and put a smoke screen out there or put people off in a different direction so that hopefully they don't pick up on it. So it's been tough for me in the fact I've been so active and I've been so physical. You know, I remember guys like, that were so fit and then they get to a stage where that's not there anymore. So that's my hardest thing. I've been so fit, so active, and then not being able to do that now. But I can get around fine. Everyone looks at you like there's nothing wrong, but there is something there. And, swinging in the breeze has been the hardest thing for me. Just where I'm at, whether I get back, and then you've got the other sort of brain injury things that kick in on the other flip side as well.
As you sit here today, do you think you will ride again?
Yeah, I'd hope so. Yeah.
What do the doctors say?
Oh, Gary's very positive at the moment. He thinks I'm not far away, but get back to Group 1 racing, that's what it's about.
Yeah. Did you know there was something not quite right for a while, and as you said, with the memory, you were trying to hide it?
Oh, no, I was, as I said, that comeback, I couldn't have got fitter. I knew what I was on about. I knew the horses. I got to work with some beautiful animals. And
so that developed post the comeback in Feb, did it?
It's just considered, it's kept getting worse. If that's, it's gone the other way, where you'd think every day by day you'd be getting better. It's gone, yeah, in reverse. So that's probably the hardest thing about the whole thing, is you're not moving forward. You're sort of just marking time or stepping back a little bit. But it's probably the longest time I've been out of the saddle. Yeah. So that's probably been difficult as well. I've missed the adrenaline. I've missed the horses and missed the people.
Absolutely. So are you, when you say it's a bit like dementia, if you're sent down the shops to grab something, do you forget, or do you forget if people ring you, you've got to call them back? Do you have to write things down to remind you these days?
I think everyone has that sort of thing where you go to the kitchen and think, well, what am I here for? What am I getting? And then it sparks it. I'm pretty good with most things, but there's a lot of things that I was trying to think of that person's name who was fit before, and I couldn't get it out. Well, now it's sort of triggered me, like Neville Wilson. A guy like that could milk 150 cows and then go to the races. He was fit, whereas a lot of us, or a lot of them now, aren't that fit. So that, those sort of little things that I would normally just pick straight off the bat and pick it up. And it's just about rewiring the brain now and just getting it back to where it was.
So how do you do that?
There's all these little exercises they get you to do. There's like a face on a clock, and you between the 3 o'clock and the 9 o'clock, and your eyes will move, left to right, right to left 20 times, and then 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock, and you got to start treadmill, get to a certain level with your heart rate, so you see what triggers that, and then try and be better than that the next day. So it's a slow stepping thing going forward, but hopefully it's going quick enough.
And you mentioned that raising of the heart rate and feeling like you've got vertigo. How hard can you work out before that triggers?
I would normally, every day I'll do 15, 20 minutes on a treadmill. That's just my routine. When I wake up in the morning, just get your heart rate up and just sweating and just breathing, and get you in a good frame of mind. And I can walk 5 minutes. I'll be running 1 or 2 minutes. I'll have to stop. Yeah, really. So, but as I say, I can walk. I could walk from here to Crown Casino and wouldn't have an issue, or walk here to the West Gate. But as soon as I get the heart rate up and it's gets too high, that's when I get the feeling of sickness, and I want to feel like a horse hanging that needs a set of blinkers on. I sort of want to go left. Yeah, it's weird.
So this brain trauma, will you have your brain scanned?
It was done when I first had the accident. It'll probably get done again, but it's a slow process. These people aren't easy to get into. It took 5 weeks to get in to see the first consultation, so that was 3 to 4 weeks ago. And as I said, there's a little bit of a work cover, crossover expense sort of thing at the moment, so things take time.
Are you worried about the future impact this might have? There's a lot of talk in AFL at the moment about brain trauma, concussion, and it seems that something similar, you've had bad concussions as a jockey in the past. Are you worried about what it may do to you in the future? I'm
not sure whether it does to me in the future, but I can see where it all goes, and I can see where people go down the wrong track, and we haven't sort of documented these head knocks probably as well as we could. And as I said earlier, the actual knock-on effect of seeing psychiatrists, drinking, memory, just day-to-day life of living, there's no doubt You do feel like you're punch drunk, and it takes time. And you can see we probably don't have the head knocks that the footballers and rugby players have, but when we do have one, it's a lot more severe than what theirs is. So there's got to be a factor. It needs to be explored a lot more. I know it's the in word at the moment, concussion, and it seems to be, the talk of the town, but there's no doubt there is a part that plays, and whether that later on in life we see a lot of guys that are unfortunately lost to the industry, maybe alcohol, maybe gambling, all these sorts of things have stepped in, and some guys have sort of gone to the dark side of the moon. So it's probably something our industry really needs to probably look a little bit harder at, and hopefully we can do some research and make things better.
Absolutely. Do you currently, for jockeys, we know there's a 12 or 14 day mandatory step down period for AFL footballers. If you do have a concussion from a fall, what's the system for racing in so far as being allowed to come back and ride again?
Well, we get tested every year to do the concussion test, and that gives us a baseline. So I was probably fortunate that COVID was here at the time, and they weren't doing the concussion test. So I actually haven't done that since this accident. And
really?
Yeah. Because COVID was on, there was no concussion test at the time, so I was able to probably slip under the radar. But normally you would have to do a concussion test and pass that before you're allowed back. So whether that's the next day, 2 weeks later, if I remember rightly, I think Jake Noonan took a while for him to get back after he had that accident quite some time ago now. So they've changed the test, they tell me. I haven't done the new one yet, but there's a couple of guys that haven't passed it. So that's probably, I don't know if it's a worry, but there's it's a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, I might follow that up, because it does seem that attitudes from the medical profession and in general society are changing, that it's not just about passing a concussion test in elite sport. There is a period where scientists and doctors are saying that it takes a while for the brain to actually fully recover. So I wonder whether there should be a certain time where jockeys aren't allowed to come back to ride, like what happens in AFL. It'll be hard to tell a jockey that, but I wonder if from a medical standpoint that's something that should be looked at.
Yeah, the hardest part with all this, like even having brain scans, is they actually don't know the ramifications of the injury until you have died and they've freezed your brain and they do the slice and they put it under the microscope. So we haven't developed any scan or system yet to fully quantify what the actual knock has done as far as a brain injury and how severe it is.
How is the neck?
Yeah, that's not too bad. I had a bad night last night. Some days are better than others if I do too much or lift something too heavy. But I'm quite confident that that's stable enough. And there was a concern that the growth on the vertebrae, because it calcifies, it was pressing on a couple of nerves that they may have to go in and scrape it. But there's no need for operations. It should be stronger than what it was before.
With Dwayne Dunn, who is revealing the extent of the injuries and brain trauma that he suffered from that shocking incident at Moonee Valley last year. And at the time, you said the focus was on the neck, because how close did the doctors tell you came to becoming a quadriplegic?
Yeah, well, it's you have some bad luck and you have some good luck too, I suppose. And people said I was very unlucky, but I think I won Tats Lotto, because if I had hit the ground, they said that fracture would have went through the spinal cord. So to be in a wheelchair quadriplegic, we've seen Ty Anglin, and there's been, I think the guy was called David Harrison in Hong Kong when I first got there. They're just simple falls that can just end so badly, and our height that we fall from is not ideal. But I was fortunate enough. I lost the feeling in my arms, but I was able to finish the race. If I had hit the ground, it wouldn't have been so nice.
How's your family dealt with this?
Oh, Dylan's still racing, and he still wants to beat me at golf, so he's travelling all right. So he likes to bet a pineapple when we're playing, but no, obviously, I'm closer to the end than I am at the beginning, no doubt about that. But, you know, I've dodged a lot of bullets along the way, and, you know, this is my 4th back injury. So, yeah.
You're getting pressure from the home front to say, maybe this is it?
Yeah, I have pressure from probably Amanda and Jessica, but Dylan's quite confident just to let the things play out and just, you know, make the decision myself, not have, you know, the last thing I want is someone else to make that decision for me. But the hardest part about this injury is swinging in the breeze. So if I was out, I'm one of these people that would say, righto, that's it, game over, let's go and focus on something else and just charge off and head in that direction. So just swinging in the breeze has been pretty tough. Hopefully we're getting closer to the end of knowing which way it's going, but I'd still love to get back and win another Blue Diamond. That would be nice.
Have you given yourself a timeline?
No, I wanted to be back for the Spring Carnival last year, and that was my little goal. Whether it was too soon, medical advice says it was. That as it is now, as I sit here now, my time frame is, there's no time frame. I just got to heal. I've got plenty of time. You know, there's a lot of guys a lot older than me that doing exceptional things on the track, and there's no reason why I couldn't do that.
Undoubtedly he's taken the lead in the Blue Diamond, coming clear near the line, and undoubtedly he's going to win it. The Bolter has scored just on a length. Here's Nadeem, it's going to swap them and beat them. Nadeem with a storming run over the top of them has got the Blue Diamond won.
Slick Chassis hits the lead. Dwayne Dunn going for 3 straight, and he's going to do it. And Slick Chassis came away and beat Suzu by a length. Rihanna's getting up to Believe and Succeed, then Berger and All American. It's Rihanna just in front. They hit the line. Dwayne's done it again. It's Rihanna by a neck to All American and
Oh, how incredible was that? 4 Blue Diamonds in a row from 2005 to 2008. The king of the kids, Dwayne Dunn, despite the fogginess. When you listen to that, does it bring back some amazing memories, those Blue Diamond days?
Yeah, they were weird days. I just seemed to get into the groove, and it just happened. It was a wonderful period of time. I always struggled with young horses early in my career. Horses actually really scared me, and that was a weakness that I need to work hard on. And once you turn that around and you learn to read animals and you learn to bond with them and give them confidence and working with the babies, it's such a real satisfying spot. I always sort of was like my Christmas Day unwrapping presents. You never knew what you were going to get. You know, you got a big box with a lot of, you know, and you open it and it's full of nothing, and then you get a small package, and it's like amazing. And horses are no different. They are, you know, complete athletes themselves with their own idiosyncrasies, and you know, there's some you have clash of personalities. There's some you just hate them with a passion, and then there's others that you just really want to work with. And I've been lucky enough to work with some really high class babies and stallions. I went through the other day. There's a lot of those stallions that are up and about now that I've had a fair bit to do with, and that was another thing I tried to pride myself on and be a part of, and I was probably fortunate enough to be in Team Hawks' yard that found a lot of those horses.
That love of the horse that you talk about, do you miss that in this period that you're off, not getting that daily connection with the horse? Yeah,
we got horses at home, but not that I just touch them if I have to, not because I want to. I always hated riding track work. It was just one of the most overrated things in our sport, and I think you can learn bad habits as a jockey riding track work too much, and it's something you need to do to get your timing and your feel and bonding with the animal. But I just found that, track work I didn't really like. But this last comeback that I did, although I was only going in and riding, say, 2 to 4 a morning and round the big sand, and I wasn't galloping them, I actually really enjoyed working with those babies again. And you know, it's a. I know they probably won't put their hand up, but you know, there's some nice horses. You know, Ole Kirk for one, that I had a lot to do with. I had to ride him every day, and I don't think he might have got to the races. And I always said to him, I think he nearly needs to be gelded, but he just turned the corner. But just to be able to work with a quality animal like that needed nurturing and needed the right person on every day was pretty special, and it was great to see him go on and do what he did.
Has it been frustrating to watch the races, or do you try to cut yourself off? Obviously, you're following Dylan, who's still riding, but is it too painful to sit there on a Saturday or when big races are on to watch the races?
Yeah, I've switched off a bit. I was following it right. I was right on top of it. I was doing some ratings and just trying to work on a few things post the injury, and then I got to a stage where I really switched right off. You know, we get caught up in our own little bubble. There's a lot more going on in this world than what we think, and there's not as many people watching the races as what we think there is, and we probably bash ourselves up a bit that you know, everyone's seen that, and you know, why doesn't people know us when we walk down the street? But if you go into the normal world, racing is sort of only 1/10 of what's going on at any particular time, and so I took a big step away from it. I was watching Dylan, Liam Riordan. I was just working with those two, just watching their rides and just giving them hopefully some advice. And then I had inquiry from someone else over in the West, a kid called Christoph Sederik. No one's heard of. He rides around Albury, Kalgoorlie, just through a friend of my wife's daughter's going out with him, and he needed some help, and I feel that I've made a huge difference to him. I've learned a lot trying to coach and be on the other side, because it's difficult for us. We see what's going on, what should be done, but trying to translate that into the right idea to get them to execute it the right way. And then sometimes I give the boys a fair spray the other day.
Did you?
One of them, the horse was, if they're listening, they'll know who it is, but the horse was 100-1, and he basically hit wrong attitude, bad ride. The horse finished down the track, but the owners pay $150 a day. They deserve to get a full run for their money. He's getting paid good money to ride it, and if they get a good horse or the trainer gets a good horse, he's not going to be riding it. So just because you're riding something at 100-1, sometimes you can get more benefit out of that than you can be on the $1.40 favourite.
Have you given thought to the next phase? Obviously, you're hopeful of coming back again, but as you said, you're closer to the end than you are the start. Have you thought about what your next career will be?
I try not to, because I'm trying to focus on the actual racing part, but there's no doubt that I do spend time to time just going, well, you know, if today's the day that the use-by or the expiry date turns up, what are we going to do? And when I do that and know that, I'll no doubt I'll try and do it 120% like I did racing. So that's just part of it. But I really enjoy, as I say, working with the young horses and the quality animals that they are. And I also, you know, even when Dylan was playing footy, juniors, just picking out kids that have potential, but the coach is not giving him the right advice or the right encouragement to climb up the ladder. And I think we probably need that as between trainers and jockeys as maybe a mediator sort of thing, that sometimes the instructions that they're putting forward to us are interpreted in totally the wrong way, and maybe there might be a mediation sort of role to say, you know, certain jockeys, you know, I know myself that when they used to be instructed to be negative, I was too negative. And then, you know, there's all those little things. You know, I've had a couple of trainers approach me, and I'm working with some just doing post-race with their horses and where I think they should head off to after that. And that's probably a great thing for me. There's no money in it. It's just actually keeping my mind involved with racing and being a part of the sport still.
you have played a part in Orbison. We just spoke to David Van Dyke, so because you used to ride Rich Enough, and if it wasn't for your suggestion, Orbison may never have come to fruition because you were the one who instructed her to send her mare to Rich Enough.
Yeah, it's quite ironic how that story's transpired. I was respected really highly by Alan Reardon here in Melbourne when he was a steward, and then he went on to Queensland, and that's his partner now. And he rang me about Rich Enough, and I said, I'm telling you, he's the best horse not to win a Group 1 race. And it was interesting to hear Van Dyke talk about that horse and thinking, oh, maybe 1,300, but Rich Enough should have won a Guineas. Or could have won a Guineas, so there's a mile. I know you can do it probably at 3, is not so much at 4, but I wouldn't be frightened to. He was big, he was strong, and he was a serious racehorse. And Kenny Keys, he done a great job with him, and he can find a lovely horse. And that was another one. It was just we got on him at the Valley that night. He was big odds, and he just blew them away. So yeah, that's. So Alan rang me and asked me about Rich Enough, and I said, listen, I'd be more than happy to send a mare to him. And I know his partner doesn't like racing them at 2, so that's no doubt why he didn't step out till he was 3. And the story, the rest is history, and hopefully he goes on to bigger and better things.
Yeah, he's certainly one of the most exciting horses. Speaking of exciting horses, Rob Nicholson's caught up with Mick Price. We had the breaking news a little earlier about this transport debacle with Queensland Health not allowing the flight that was due to leave Melbourne last night and head to Queensland to enter the state due to COVID issues, which means that Ayrton, the favourite for the Stradbroke, didn't make the flight last night. So Mick Price and Mick Kent Jr. have taken any risk out of the equation, and Ayrton is on the road. We've tweeted that out. He's jumping on a truck tonight. He will stop at Warwick Farm. He'll have a day there and then arrive in Brisbane on Friday. Of course, he needs to run in the Fred Best Classic next Saturday. Speaking of star 3-year-olds and promising horses, I want to find out your thoughts about this horse. It was one of the Caulfield Guineas match races that was built up a few years ago. All Too Hard taking on Piero, and it was D. Dunn at his best.
And Piero, Rawilla had to pull the whip. All Too Hard's a length and a half away. Piero in front. All Too Hard's got his chance. He's coming with momentum. Piero has to fight. All Too Hard's grabbed him. And All Too Hard has won it. All Too Hard by a half a length, Piero.
And he's since become one of the great stallions here in Australia as well. How good was All Too Hard? And that Guineas, where it was you v Nash Rawilla, and circumstances probably dictated you outrode Nash that day.
I wouldn't say that. I would say that you, as a jockey, probably win more races by other things happening in the race or someone else's bad luck or, misjudgment than sometimes our good rides. But he done a bit of work up the hill, Piero, and that gave me the opportunity to snipe him late. And they're both gone on to be very nice stallions. Team Hawks took that horse to Sydney to give him a little bit of a wake-up call to put him on notice that he had to put his hand up, and that's their ability as trainers, and he certainly did that. But it's a step back with All Too Hard. I jumped him out the first time with another horse. There were only 2 of us in the barriers, and he got beaten from here to Burke Street. And I thought that's $1.2 million in the bin. But the next time I did him, the hairs just stood up on the back of my neck and went, wow, this is a serious racehorse. He was just one of those types of horses. You just need to teach him once, show him what he needed to do, and then away he went. He was all class, and it's great to see him doing it, in the breeding barn as well, because, he's always in the shadow of Black Caviar and by Casino Prince. He stepped outside of that, and he was a star in his own right, but he had his own little idiosyncrasies as well. You had to know how to handle him, how he was. He got a bad rap when he went to Sydney the first few times, but he was carrying injuries. He wasn't as good as what he was probably in other times. But great to see Viner. He's got another beautiful stallion.